Welcome to this video about the final round of the Chess Olympiad 2012 in Istanbul. And here we had a very interesting final round today. And congratulations to the new Olympic champions coming from Armenia. I simply can't resist to mention that this was my pick before the tournament, but okay, it's a matter of luck, those kind of guessing games. Okay, it's been very close in the final standings, with Armenia sharing first place with Russia. They both scored 19 points out of 11 rounds, so 22 points would have been the maximum. So both teams conceded just one loss and one draw. Russia lost against the United States. I covered the Nakamura game just 2 days ago. And Armenia lost one match against China. And they both drew their match 2-2. So both teams really with a great performance, and certainly 2 gold medals. Well, they don't award them, but it's this kind of score usually is enough to win the tournament. Let's put it this way. And this time 2 teams managed to do it. Third place goes to Ukraine with 18 points. They lost just 2 matches, but won 9 matches also. Still a good performance, but they lost key matches against against both Armenia and Russia. And fourth place goes to China. And this is the story of the round. China was leading before the final round, but they needed to beat Ukraine, but lost 3-1. So China had the gold in their hands already, but spoiled it with a loss against the admittedly very strong team from Ukraine. I'll cover the game Ivanchuk against Wang Hao, simply because it really set the tone for this match, and it was obvious early on that Ivanchuk had some pressure, and that it would be very difficult for China to win this match, as a loss is hard to compensate. They would have needed to win two games out of 4 then, and it simply didn't look like it. Even at the end they lost board 4 also. And also let me quickly check the final standing in the women competition. Here Russia won the title, a bit surprisingly, as China was leading the event throughout, but China simply spoiled the tournament for them with very unexpected 2-2 tie against Kazakhstan in the penultimate round. They were leading by 1 point and simply had all the bigger teams already beaten or played, and they simply needed to beat the somewhat weaker teams, but failed with the mentioned 2-2 tie against Kazakhstan. In fact, Russia played Kazakhstan in the last round and won 4-0, so it was possible to beat them. So Russia first place, China second place, both with 19 points also, and unbeaten. So 3 draws conceded, 3 ties. In third place, just like in the men's competition or the open section, Ukraine with 18 points. They also didn't lose a match, just 4 draws. Okay, let's go to the featured game. I don't want to bring up any more statistics. There are interesting ones like the individual board medals and so on. But if you enjoy looking at the detailed results, I'll put the link to the results page, which is very informative. It's got lots of data to consume. I'll put this in so that you can read it and click on it in the description. All right, let's go to Ivanchuk Wang Hao. Ivanchuk played 1d4, and okay, you never know what he's going to play. He can play any opening, and we actually get a Nimzo Indian with e3, the Rubinstein. yeah, Ivanchuk really plays all openings, so it doesn't make any sense to say, okay, he's an expert there or has experience in this kind of opening. He simply plays everything. Okay, Wang Hao with castles now, bishop d3, d5, knight f3. So one of the absolute main positions of this opening. Here the overwhelming main line is c5, which usually is answered by castles, and then black has a choice. He can play this Karpov variation. This was covered in an earlier game of the Olympiad between Arkady Neidich and Peter Leko, where Neidich won a nice game here with the isolated pawn. But there are a multitude of variations really possible. In the game, Wang Hao played b6, which is somewhat rarer move, but one that still enjoys a pretty solid reputation. But it seems that Ivanchuk played an interesting line here. He played the immediate a3. The main move here by far is castles and bishop d7. And this is somewhat different. The difference is if white now plays a3 to ask the bishop what it is doing, and then black's idea is to retreat to d6. He wants to keep the bishop and put up some sort of setup with knight b to d7, queen e7, maybe a6 to prevent this kind of move. So black really wants to keep the bishop. He doesn't want to retreat it. He wants to retreat it. He doesn't want to capture on c3. And the difference in the main game here, where Ivanchuk played a3, if black now intends to keep the bishop and retreats it, then white has the interesting move e4 at his disposal. Of course, in the other line, where black's bishop is already on b7, this move would simply lose a piece here. But here white has enough control on e4, and black doesn't have much else to take here. And this looks slightly more comfortable for white with the nice center, and black has lost some time with his bishop moves. The bishop even isn't particularly well placed on d6. It would rather be on e7 in this structure. So this is why black also took here. And yeah, now white gained the bishop pair, but okay, in the Nimzo this is kind of normal. In fact, I think you could easily, if you look at the finish of the game, you could easily think that it was smooth sailing all around, and white was much better and so on. But I think it's not so clear really. Black's position was very solid all around. Yeah, here he played an interesting concept. He played c6. The basic alternative would have been to capture here and play this kind of setup. Also very standard Nimzo play. And maybe here white preparing e4. And this kind of position should be very slightly better for white, just because he is probably able to play e4 in the future. But it's still fairly normal structure, and black can certainly play this. He went with c6, however, which is interesting. The idea is that black wants to fight for this c4 square, and intends to recapture with the c-pawn. We see this in the game, where Ivanchuk took here, and now black can recapture with the c-pawn. He very much prefers this to capturing with the e-pawn, as the e-pawn capture gives white an extra pawn in the center, and this really intends to quickly exchange his bishop if possible, or set up some blockade on the c4 square. So it's an interesting way to play as black. It's not not an advantage for black or anything, but it's certainly a viable strategical idea. Queen e2 was played just to prevent bishop a6, and now knight to c6, which intends to support this kind of blockade on the c4 square. Castles and knight a5 according to plan. The drawback, however, of this move is that it neglects the e5 square, and we see this soon, this point a4 to allow the bishop activation here. Rook e8, it sort of anticipates bishop a3, and now knight e5. Now white has a very strong knight on e5, and this was possible because black put this knight on the edge of the board. From a personal taste kind of perspective, I would really like I really like white here, but maybe it's not so problematic yet. Played knight e4, which is probably okay. The idea is to go to d6. One notable motif here that I'd like to show is if black wants to play knight d7 to quickly get rid of the knight on e5, then white already has the decisive move. Takes oh, sorry, I confused it. Sorry, I looked at my notes here, but no, it's actually this one. Bishop h7 is not bad also, but knight f7 is even stronger. Just taking here. The idea being
check.
That where should black's king go? Let's say it goes here. Then
check.
There's this move. And we see the benefit of a4, bishop on a3, and now black is in a deadly crossfire. This is
check.
Getting checkmated, I guess.
Check. Check.
This was I could have taken here. This
check.
Is just quicker.
Check. Check.
And now it's made on h7. Yeah, knight f7 is deadly. This kind of combination with f7 and h7 being the critical points crops off pretty often if a bishop is on d3 and knight on e5. Black needs to be really cautious with moving away defenders. Okay, so he played knight e4, which also of course blocks this diagonal. Now white played f3, kicking the knight away. Of course it cannot take, simply because after this the knight has no squares. It simply gets lost after, let's say, this move. And now next move I'll capture the knight. So he goes to d6, which was the idea anyway, strengthening the blockade on c4, covering f7. So I think a decent defensive maneuver. Bishop a3. Yeah, there's not much else what this bishop could do. And here's an interesting position. He played bishop b7 now, which still might be okay. Here I had a look at the move f6, which was my first idea, simply to try to get rid of the knight. And he certainly thought about this move, I'm sure. Because you have a look at this. If white would really move the knight now to g4, it doesn't have a really good place on g4. Where should it go? It doesn't have any direct attacking ideas. In fact, the problem with this f6 move is, I think, is the reply f4. Simply sacrificing a piece here. And this leads to exceptionally strong attack for white. I think it's very hard to defend this. I can give you some sample variations. If black takes the knight instantly, then white would first capture here. And black now recaptures. In fact, you could analyze e4. But I think white is simply better in this position. Computer still thinks it's equal, but I don't get it really. White has all the ideas on the king side and black has no play. It's still fairly solid, but white should be better. Okay, but I want to show really the attacking ideas. If black simply retakes and takes here, and then Here we see a very nice attacking position. Black now only has one move. He needs to play this here. He needs to cover the rook because of queen h5. And yeah, of course, this is hanging. h6 just simply loses instantly to checkmate on h7. So black needs to play g6. And now, of course, white sacrifices. And here black only has got one move. He needs to play rook e7. If he takes the bishop,
check.
Yeah, it's simply
Check.
devastating. This is also why queen d7 was the only move, because black needs this rook e7 move to get things covered. And here, I think, yeah, white is probably just winning. The only thing you need to do is, yeah, keep cool about all this. Just retreat, and now white piles up. Like this, rook f6, rook f1, queen h6. This is not defensible. It's just too much. Another cool attacking idea is rook a2 to f2. And at first I think the computer gives this as, I don't know, equal, slightly better for white or something, but I think white is just winning. I didn't bother to let it run for a couple of minutes or so. I think white will win this. With not much problems. The computer will also show this. I'm pretty sure you only need to let it run for a couple of minutes maybe. Okay, this is just a very strong attacking position. If we return to this idea, f6, f4, I just want to show one more line. If black now doesn't take, which is yeah, simply too risky, he could play here and use this e4 square. Then white has the very strong move queen h5. And this is a bit similar to the other line, but I think here it is even more amazing. Okay, this simply has the idea of giving a checkmate, or check first, then knight g6, rook f3, this kind of checkmate. This way. But okay, what happens if black takes it? We simply recapture. Just taking on e5, and now the problem is that the f8 square is firmly controlled, and white now can, with yeah, all the time in the world, pile up. Let's say black would play this move. White would simply take and play rook f7, and there's absolutely nothing that black can do against rook f1 and rook takes g7. It's just deadly. Let's say king here, rook here, and I'm threatening rook takes g7, and there's nothing black can do to prevent this. He can try, okay, he can try something like this, then I go here, rook h4, and it's over. It's simply too much firepower on the king, and note that these pieces, yeah, really don't help. That's very nice attacking lines. So here rook h4 is simply deadly. Let's say something like this.
Check. Checkmate.
And it's mate, or some other mates. It's just over. So f6 could have led to some pretty interesting attacking lines. He played bishop b7 though, and now Ivanchuk. Oops, I hit the wrong button here. Oops. Now Ivanchuk just took on d6, recaptures, and f4. The idea was he wanted to play f4, but didn't want to allow knight e4. So he took the knight first and then played f4. Yeah, and here we have the same kind of threat again that I showed before. This kind of problem. If black would play something like this,
check.
This just
check. Check.
This just ends the game and made next move. So black must be cautious again about these 2 points. So he played g6, covering this and yeah, blunting the diagonal. Yeah, white improved his queen now, queen to g4, probably intending also move like f5. And black now with knight to e4, attacking oops, not this one, attacking e3. Oops, I didn't intend to do this, but it's fun. All right, he takes e3, and white covered this. Yeah, I changed my keyboard here because my usual one has some technical problems, and this keyboard I didn't hit the right keys here. Okay, white simply covered e3. Of course, if you look at this, white could also think about taking here, but you need to be careful. This kind of stuff really gives black huge counterplay. You don't want to exchange your knight, really. This is such a strong piece on e5. So queen g3 looks just about right. Maybe rook a to e1 was also okay, but this is certainly a good move. Yeah, and this is the critical position, really. I mean, white certainly has the more comfortable position. He's got a good knight on e5. Queen is aggressively placed. He got the f-pawn, and so on. White is certainly better. This is not a huge discussion, I guess. But still, I think black had chances to put a tougher resistance here. Maybe one idea could have been to play something like rook c8. And the point is that the move that Wang Hao played allowed some attacking scheme, which this move or some others even would prevent. I'll show the game first, and then you see the problem with this move. He played queen c7, and now white has a very strong continuation, which Ivanchuk of course spotted. He took the knight and now played f5. And this is very strong now. The problem is that black would like to recapture, to capture on f5, and then rook f5. And in the other position, where black had the queen still on d6, black would be able to play f6, which now of course is simply taken. So to compare, if black doesn't make this unlucky move here, like and plays this, then the same kind of line, black has f6, and you cannot sack on g6 because, black exchanges queens and wins a piece. So f6 is now possible. The queen covers this pawn. So it's just a very small detail, but it changes the position considerably. So this is actually the losing move after this, because black simply doesn't have any playable move. As mentioned, this is very, very problematic. Here f7 is just under such heavy fire. Let's continue this a bit. Rook e7, rook a to f1, and maybe he'll cover it like this. Then you get this kind of position where white completely dominates on the dark squares, and he will simply push the h-pawn and at some point sacrifice on g6, while black has absolutely no play at all. Of course, there are other ideas. White can also try something like this. I mean, it's terrible. Black is just waiting to get beat down here. So taking wasn't really great. And what should black do? If he plays, let's say, this one to cover f7, then white simply pushes here, and he's got all this kind of ideas. With this knight on e5, it's simply over, and black cannot in any way get rid of this, and the dark squares, it's terrible. So black played f6, which also loses, but it was lost anyway. And now white can really finish this in style. He took on g6, simply ignoring that the knight is hanging. Okay, black took it, not much choice. This kind of move is simply answered with here. I mean, this
check
certainly would win also, but this is, I think, even more devastating, or white can simply pile up more. It's terrible. Okay, he took on e5, and now the forceful move rook f7, taking the queen and the h7 pawn. And yeah, there's nothing really that black could do. He played this. Let's look briefly at alternatives. Rook e7, for example. Then white simply plays this move and threatened this with checkmate, and yeah, black has no moves. It's simply over. If he would move the h pawn, then white has multiple wins. One possible win is this, or can also go here. It's simply too much, this kind of stuff. Okay, in the game he played queen to c6, and now white
check
breaks through with this capture, sacrificing the rook.
Check.
And here it only needs one more precise move, and this is the queen, the new queen on h8. Okay, black needs to take it, and
check.
Now queen g7. The point was to get the rook to h8, so then if black now goes to the back rank,
check.
He'll get you get checkmated in this fashion, or in this case loses a queen. So in the game he actually went to d6, and now after
check.
d takes e5. Well, the official side gives the move king d5 is being played, and yeah, I'm not sure, resigns or he overstepped the time, but in this position white has a forced mate with rook
check.
d1 check, king here, and yeah, the most human way to checkmate now is queen
check.
g4 check. There's even one, this is one move quicker, shown
check.
by the computer, and yeah,
checkmate.
It's mate on d2. Yeah, very nice king hunt at the end, which wasn't completely played out. So after king to d5, not quite sure why the buttons are not working. I'm not sure. I simply cannot move back here. Okay, so after king d5, or while playing king d5, Wang Hao resigned. So very nice game at the end for Ivanchuk, who had yeah, sort of up and down tournament, some good games and some somewhat weird games. Yeah, I hope you enjoyed this nice attacking game by Ivanchuk, and yeah, I've made 11 videos on this Olympiad, some or most of them while I was on vacation, and during the time I didn't do any other content. So yeah, in this upcoming week I'll certainly do some more uploads, which is which will be somewhat different, like a couple of rapid or blitz games, or maybe some online tournaments. So a little bit of more lighter, more entertaining stuff than those longer time control games played by grandmasters. Yeah, I hope you enjoyed it, and yeah, check the channel for new videos.